Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your guest co-hosts, Brett Apley and Big Marley, two longtime friends of the show. And today, we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 113, Mario Bautista versus Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. High-stakes showdown in the bantamweight division, title implications on the line, and an absolute low-key, underrated banger of a fight night. Brett Apley, it's been a while. Welcome back to Half the Battle.
What's up, guys? It is great to be back. It's been a long time. Been doing these shows for a long time, and there's not two better people in the industry that I'd want to talk with this week. So really looking forward to it, and appreciate having me on again.
No, the feeling's mutual, and it means a lot coming from you and Kyle Marley. You already know what it is. Welcome back to Half the Battle.
Yeah, man. Always good to be on. Always good to talk fights with you guys. Man, we used to do this like 3-4 times a week back in the MMA radio days. So I remember saying the good night to the kids or good night to the wife coming in and just being used to this. But today I was like, oh man, I gotta kick it back into gear. It's been a while, so I'm looking forward to it. Really haven't done any research since Sunday on these fights, so I'm kind of hoping you guys can help me out a little bit too. But I have done research on all these fights, and I could see how the line has moved as well since Sunday.
All right, my friends. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right down to business. Because in this main event in the bantamweight division, we got Mario Bautista. He's 16-3, taking on Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira, who's 23-3. Currently, they got it Mario Bautista minus 170. The comeback on Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira is plus 145. Bautista, the older man, at 2 years older, 32 years old. Both men 5'9", but it's Vinicius that has a 1.5-inch reach advantage at 70.5 inches of reach. So, man, absolute banger of a main event. If you're a hardcore fan, you're excited for this fight because Mario Bautista, a guy that's truly come a long way. And we're talking, when you talk about paying dues, Mario Bautista made his UFC debut against Corey Sandhagen. So he's been thrown into the ringer from the jump. And with Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira, I often talk about when I watch Contender Series, I pay attention to two things: the performance itself and why Dana did or didn't sign the fighter. And what Dana said regarding Lockdog is, this is one of these guys that we can throw into the mix right away. And guess what, gentlemen? Mario Bautista in a main event, that is the definition of throwing you into the mix right away. And I think the guy's proven that he's ready for this opportunity, coming into the UFC with an extensive record. It's not like he was one of these 6-0 guys trying to get his feet wet. This guy's been through the ups and downs outside the UFC. And when he came here, already beating ranked competition, formerly ranked competition, has proven he's ready for this opportunity. But Bautista, a super stiff test and a guy that I think he still has title aspirations. So, Brett, I know historically you've actually been high on Mario Bautista. You love the volume. I know you do. And I know you have certain opinions about guys that fight the way that Lockdog fights. Although I will say he is kind of different than the prototypical relying on big moments guys, because I'd say his volume's a little bit higher than, say, guys you've criticized in the past, like Tyron Woodley or Trevin Jones, who, by the way, knocked out Mario Bautista. So I'm curious about your opinion on this fight, my friend.
Yeah, you know me too well. When I was writing this one up this week, I'm going back to like whatever it is, 2019, and patting myself on the back. Oh, I was on Mario Bautista against Jinsu Sun, for volume, round winning. He was underrated after a loss to Corey Sandhagen. And what I've always liked about Bautista is like he's not the greatest athlete. He's not the most powerful fighter. He's not the best wrestler in the world. He maximizes the tools that he has, and he fights in a style that allows him to win rounds. I don't know that he's ever going to be champion of this division, but he's giving pretty much everyone good tests, even Umar Nurmagomedov. And I like the consistency from him. I think 5 rounds suits him. He's not a guy who slows down. He in theory, Bautista is the type of fighter who can excel over 5 rounds. And I think that's partially what makes this matchup interesting against Oliveira, because Oliveira, he tends to slow down. I more had technical issues with him coming into the UFC. Like, he's a showboater. He has been knocked out before. And I wasn't that high on him coming into the promotion, but I really like his aggression. Can't deny that. He's a dangerous fighter in all areas. Even though he gets tired, he's someone who pushes through fatigue, which is not something you can say about every fighter in the sport. So he pushes through fatigue enough that I think he's going to give Bautista a really good test for as long as he is fresh. It's just that, I mean, if he doesn't put Bautista away, is he winning 3 rounds here? If this gets to round 4 and round 5, who are you favoring in the championship rounds? I mean, for me at this point, I'd be favoring Bautista moderately because I just know he's consistent. I know he's going to be in there throwing volume, and I like that kind of style more, especially over 5 rounds. So I think this is a really good fight. I think Oliveira is going to press forward, throw recklessly, and try and hurt Bautista, someone who's been knocked out before, and maybe he can have success. Maybe he can. I'm not picking him to win by knockout, but has some knockout equity in there. Ultimately, I do trust the consistency, the volume, pacing, cardio of Bautista over 5 rounds. So he's going to be my lean.
Before I go to Marley, one quick thing I want to, not necessarily debate you on, but at least present some points and hear what you have to say about them. So I've not only heard you say this, I've heard a lot of people say this, that Vinicius slows down and all these things, but true or false, Vinicius has never lost a round 3 in his entire UFC career.
I guess that's true.
It's 100% true.
Can I make a point off of that?
Of course.
So one of my concerns is that, like, his last few opponents are just so much worse than Bautista from a pacing cardio standpoint. Like, Said Nurmagomedov's death gassing a round and a half into the fight. Ricky Simone, Kyler Phillips, these are guys who are notorious a little bit, Phillips especially, for slowing down. So it's just hard it's easier to win round 3s against those types than it is to win round 3, 4, and 5 against the Bautista. So I'm not looking at Oliveira and saying, oh, this guy's a gasser, he's definitely going to fade. You can't trust him after round 1 and round 2. He's proven that he can fight into round 3. It's just that of the two, I am much more confident in Bautista in round 3, 4, and 5 from a projection standpoint. And I'd be happy to see Oliveira prove me wrong, prove to me that he's fully capable of fighting in 5 rounds at a hard pace. It's just the kind of thing that I need to see.
All right. I love it. Kyle Marley, what's your take?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to be the middle ground between you two because I don't have a strong lean in this fight. I do think 5 rounds should help out the Bautista side. I would trust him a little bit more in rounds 4 or 5 because of the style of Oliveira. You just can't go balls to the walls for 5 minutes most of the time like he does. And I mean, I saw what was I watching today? Stat Diggers, I think, and you had a comment that he's like the whatever weight this is, DDP, and I was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I was like, if he is, then he's probably going to cost me a lot of money because I was always picking against DDP for the same reason. And if this guy can go 5 rounds at that pace, he's going to be special. And I think he could hurt Bautista in any round, but I do think Bautista will keep up the same pace. 4 or 5 rounds, I think he's going to be the more well-rounded fighter. He's going to have the more wrestling and grappling advantage in this fight, in my opinion. But on the feet, it's going to be close. And I think maybe 2 of the first 3 rounds Oliveira can take. But I like Bautista to get rounds 4 and rounds 5. Maybe I'm wrong, but the line has tightened on this one. When I did it, it was minus 215 for Mario Bautista. Now he's minus 170, as you can see on the screen. That's almost a 5% drop. And I was thinking the line was a little bit too high. Now I think it's about right, but I'm not trying to lay minus 170 on Bautista here. So my way to play this fight, I think, would just be to take plus money that the fight goes the distance. And then I don't even care who wins because I like both these guys. I think both of them could fight for a title one day. I don't know that they'll be title holders, but I think they could be in the cage with the title holder at least.
Yeah, both guys have paid tons of dues, and I'm glad you brought up that example I made about, I think Lockdog is the Dricus Duplessis of the 135-pound division. I mean, you show his technique to a boxing coach, they're going to laugh in your face, but you get him in there in the octagon with guys more technical than him, and there's something about that sheer presence, that physicality, the power too, and I just can't get behind this gassing narrative when I literally look at the stats and his output increases as the fights progress. So to me, I don't buy that. And then also, we talk about how Vinicius has been stopped in all his losses. Well, when you're a kill or be killed fighter, I mean, it just makes sense. Like if you put yourself on the line the way that he does, yeah, you're going to get caught from time to time. But those guys were heavy hitters. We're talking about a guy in Mario Bautista, checks notes, who couldn't even finish Jay the Jobber Perrin. We're talking about a guy in Mario Bautista. How much better is Mario Bautista than Trevin Jones, guys? A lot better. I remember losing a serious straight bet on Mario Bautista against Trevin Jones. Like, so I'm just saying, and I know it was a while ago. I know he's gotten better, but power is one of those things that you don't just develop late into your career. So if it's, if he's going to come out here and stop him, hey, it's MMA. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. Maybe he comes out here and does it. But I think that there's something about Oliveira where you watch him on tape, just like you watch Dricus du Plessis on tape. You're like, what the fuck is this? But then when guys are in there with him and he's cutting off the cage, they got nowhere to go. I mean, and then you start hearing the commentators talking about, oh, this guy's throwing from the hip. This guy's doing everything wrong. But you look at the looks on his opponent's faces, and it's their cardio that's starting to zap. It's their durability that's starting to wane, and their confidence that's out the window. So obviously, this is a big step up in competition. You have to show Mario Bautista an immense amount of credit. The first thing I said when I started talking about him is, this guy made his debut against Corey Sandhagen. You don't pay more dues than that. But like I said, Dana said, this is one of these guys we can throw into the mix right away. And I don't know. The odds have come down a little bit. When I recorded my first breakdown, he was like plus 170. And to me, that was a no-brainer. Now it's maybe a little bit different, but I don't know. My gut's telling me I gotta go on the opposite of everyone. I gotta come out here and take the unorthodox guy who doesn't do things by the book against the guy who's probably better than him across the board, but doesn't bring that danger factor to the table, which has historically given Lockdog Oliveira issues. So at least one of us is going to be right, but I'm actually going to come out here and take the underdog and take Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira to continue that big win streak and insert himself firmly into the title conversation. And you know what we forgot to do? We've got to play their highlights. Hey, let's do that. Brett, I know you've always been high on Bautista. Why don't you tell me about why you like this guy so much?
Well, Bautista is a really strong minute winner. Lands 5.58 significant strikes per minute, 4.19 absorbed, 55% striking defense. We've seen him top out at 173 significant strikes, landed over 3 rounds, 112, 129. This guy is going to be there from minute 1 to minute 15. Although he, gives up some takedowns now and again, he can scramble back up to his feet. He's going to give every single fighter in this division a test per round and absolutely maximizes his skill set.
Yeah. There's no better way to put it, and for what he's working with to what he's becoming, I got to give him credit because, I was not talking shit. I was bringing up pure facts about, the guy couldn't finish Jay Perrin. The guy got finished by Trevin Jones. But granted, that was 5 years ago. He's leveled up tremendously and he's paid insane amount of dues. Also, there's been a bit of a physical transformation too. He's not a 27-year-old man now. He's a 32-year-old grown-ass guy. And you love to see it. But again, here in this patchy mix fight, when you land over 200, close to 200 significant strikes on a guy and you're not even close to knocking the guy out, again, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, but like I'm just, the way to beat Lockdog is to put him out. I'm not convinced, Mario's going to do that. Now, Kyle, you want to talk through Mr. Lockdog here? Because I know I've said a lot about him.
I mean, yeah, what's not to like about Lockdog? He's always pushing forward. He'll eat a punch to give a punch. And his punch is probably going to be a lot harder than the one that he ate. He's landing over 5 strikes per minute, eats less than 3. And yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, damage zaps cardio as well. So even though we haven't seen Bautista fade yet, maybe this would be the time because those punches that he's eating are just not going to be easy. And he's not going to stop coming forward too. So I like everything about this guy. I just don't know that he can keep it up for 25 minutes. And this is going to be the perfect fight to find out.
Yeah, no, again, and that's where I guess we kind of view it differently because to me it's like, what evidence do I have of that? Granted, the people like Brett said, the people he's been fighting aren't the cardio machines that Mario Bautista is. But when I see a guy building into fights the way that Lockdog does, the debut, kills the guy in the third round. The Said Nurmagomedov fight, weathers the storm, and then picks up the pace the next 2 rounds. The Kyler Phillips fight, you got to weather his little explosiveness in that first round, and then he just walked him down without a care in the world the last 2 rounds. So I know this is different because Mario doesn't have some kind of cardio issue, but I'm curious how Mario deals with this pressure, this pace, and this sheer brute force and presence. So we can go back and forth about it. I think we've given our takes, and may the best man win. Co-main event of the evening in the flyweight division. We got Amir Albazi. He's 17-2. Taking on Kyogi Horiguchi, who's 35-5. Currently, they got a Kyogi minus 365. The comeback on Amir Albazi is plus 290. So Kyogi, 3 years older at 35. Both men 5'5". Albazi has a 3-inch reach advantage at 68 inches of reach. So, gentlemen, we talk about how speed is the first thing to go. But I got to tell you what, especially in the lighter weight classes, right? But for a 125er who's 35 years old, Kyogi looked pretty damn fast that last fight against Tagir. And, it's one thing to bust up Tagir's calves, which we've seen other guys do, Bruno Silva, Alain Nascimento, but to go out there and finish a guy like Tagir, hey, if Manel Cap and Tyra and all them weren't in the mix right now, Kyogi would be getting the shot. But because he's about to fight here pretty soon, and I'm guessing it's either going to be against, Tyra or Manel Cap. Plus, Pantoja deserves an immediate title shot once he's recovered. Let's not make Kyogi Horiguchi wait. Hey, how about you fight Albazi, who's coming off a neck surgery, a career worst performance, and before that performance against Morono, a lot of people thought that he kind of got away with one against Kai France, and it kind of reminds me of Alexander Hernandez in the sense where, when he beat Beneil Dariush in his debut, it was the best and worst thing that ever happened to him. The best because, hey, dude, you just knocked out Beneil Dariush. The worst because he put himself in a position that he wasn't ready for at the time. And you guys know that Alexander Hernandez never got on a win streak until now. And it's been 10 years since the Benny fight or so. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because in Albazi's case, if you beat Kai France, now you're a top 5 guy. Now you got to fight the best guys in the world. And no one thinks he beat Kai France. And then you see how he performs against Morono. It's like, dude, you're not ready to be in this, in this top 5 position you're in. I believe Albazi might even be ranked ahead of Manel Cap, which to me, come on, that's one of the biggest jokes I've ever heard in my life. So here against Kyogi, who already had a UFC stint before where he went 7-1, the only loss to Demetrius Johnson, goes to the regional scene. He finished Manel Cap. He got a quick tap from Manel Cap. Let's pull this shit up. I mean, you're talking about a super fast, dynamic guy who's a one of one. You don't see guys with that karate blitz and the ability to close the distance the way that Kyogi does. Look, here he is against Cap. If you could treat Manel Cap like this and get a quick tap from him, okay, Kyogi, I get it. He's 35, but he didn't look 35 against Tagir. And I'm so happy this guy's back in the UFC and he's motivated like no other. This is your chance to come out here and end your career as a champion in the pinnacle of the sport, the biggest organization, and the matchups he's getting. I mean, Tagir Ulanbekov was on a nice little win streak. Amir Albazi is holding a top 5 spot hostage. This is Kyogi's chance to come out here and truly show out. And I think if he does that, as the odds indicate, you're going to be looking at a guy who's going to be challenging Josh Van, Manel Cap, Tatsuro Taira, and all these guys that are in the mix right now. So I really, really like Kyogi Horiguchi's style. And, we talk about, I think I mentioned this earlier, speed being the first thing to go. Speed hasn't quite left this man yet. And even if he has slowed down a little bit, I still think he's significantly faster than Amir Albazi. So listen, Kyle Marley, am I being harsh on Albazi, or am I being realistic about Albazi? Why don't you tell me your opinion? Because when he first came to the UFC, he looked like a stud, but you mix in the surgery with the ass whooping he took against the Brandon Morono, and I'm not sure what I think right now, plus the Kai France fight, which put him in a situation he wasn't ready for. You want to take it from here, my friend?
Yeah, my monitor just went out on me, so I'm going over to this other side, I guess. But no, I was a big Albazi fan early in his career, and I think you're being realistic because he has not really shown it in his last couple fights. I bet on him in that Kai France fight, and I remember listening to the decision, I was like, no freaking way. Are you serious? That's never happens to me. Because I don't think he won that. And then he looked horrible in his last fight. Horiguchi looked great in his last fight, and he's been around forever. I remember breaking down Horiguchi fights on Half the Battle with you 10 plus years ago. I don't know which ones it was, but I swear we talked on Half the Battle before on Horiguchi fights, and I've been a fan of him back then. So I'm glad to see him back. I think he has every advantage in this fight, except for maybe strength. The wrestling could go either way, but I think Albazi lands a takedown or two, and he's not going to do as much as Horiguchi will with a takedown or two from him. I think Horiguchi will be the faster and the more active striker as well. So, yeah, I think it's a perfect fight for Horiguchi to win, and we would have to see a big improvement for Albazi, I think, to pull this one off. What was this one? I can't see my screen. I think he was like minus 350 or so, Horiguchi, when I was doing it on Sunday, and now he's like minus 500. I think I saw a little bit ago. I'm not sure. I can't see my screen anymore.
Minus 365.
Oh, it hadn't moved up that much. I'm thinking of another fight. Okay. Well, maybe it does move up because I think it's a perfect fight for Horiguchi.
Brett Apley. Close this up for us.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible to pick Albazi outright here, given what we just saw from Horiguchi. I mean, and he's not even that old. He's only a couple years older than Albazi. Albazi's coming off injuries, and I've never been high on Albazi personally. I bet Morono pretty big over him. He just doesn't land much volume. 2.7 strikes per minute. He's going to be at a big speed disadvantage here. Horiguchi should, on paper, outstrike him unless Albazi, can land one big shot. But Horiguchi, to me, seems like a moderate to heavy favorite on the feet. Albazi is a quality grappler and can mix in takedowns, but not a high-volume fighter there either. Like, he's landing one or two takedowns. He landed one takedown against Kai Kara-France. So he lands 1 to 2 takedowns against Horiguchi. Is he going to submit him? If not, it just seems unlikely that he's going to be able to do enough damage to outpace what happens on the feet. So I'm curious to see Albazi, curious to see whether he's made strides. I kind of doubt he's going to be dramatically different than he was when he fought Morono, in which case I think, Horiguchi limits the wrestling, outstrikes him, potentially hurts him, potentially takes him down too. So Horiguchi seems like one of the safer fighters to win on this slate.
So my boy Devontae Sewell said, y'all think Albazi can get 2 takedowns? I don't think he can get 1 takedown.
I wouldn't bet on it.
I'd say 1 or 2.
Really? So I'll say this.
He's going to have to land 2 for him to have any chance at winning this fight.
Let me say this. I think if he does get a takedown, I think Kyogi's popping right back up. That's kind of how I feel about that. Shout out my boy Devontae Sewell. Y'all got to check out my boy Devontae's fight with Hyder Emil on, I think, LFA. Dude, like a split decision war. It was one of the best fights of that year. So shout out my boy. Now, before we talk about the next fight, I just got to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Bet105. If you're looking for a sports book that doesn't limit winners or play games when it's time to get paid, then you need to check out my friends at Bet105.ag. Super high limits so you can get down whatever you want on any sport. And when it's time to get paid, no KYC, no stupid games, no stupid prizes. Obviously, UFC is coming up, but guys, it's Super Bowl week. So for the Super Bowl, Bet105 are offering -101 on the coin toss and -103 odds for the spread of the game. Also, their limits are already $100,000. So you don't have to wait a couple days to get down the action you truly want. No, go ahead and bet now because they ain't going to limit you and they'll take whatever action you bring to the table. Also, for UFC, we finally had our first candidate for robbery of the year last week on the Sydney card. So Bet105 are offering split decision insurance. Your fighter wins a split decision, no big deal. You get paid out. It is what it is. But your fighter loses that split decision. Bet105 are going to give you 25% of your money back. Hey, that's better than nothing, especially considering the state of judging in modern day MMA. So my friends, go to bet105.ag, use my promo code HalfTheBattle, deposit $100 and get a $50 free bet at bet105.ag using my promo code HalfTheBattle. Now let's get back to the show. Next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Jailton Almeida. He's 22-4, taking on Rizvan Kuniev, who's 13-3-1. Currently, they got it Jailton minus 145. The comeback on Rizvan is plus 125. Jailton, a year older at 34, an inch shorter at 6'3", but has a 3-inch reach advantage at 79 inches of reach. So really, really interesting fight. Brett Apley, I got to take this one to you first. I mean, the guy, Mr. Kuniev, stuffed 13 of 15 takedowns, but granted, in some of those, he had to crawl to the fence in a way that might give up his back. But to, maybe to Kuniev's credit, I saw Spivak get his back taken and reverse the position. And then to Almeida's credit, the way he was able to sweep off bottom, I was like, damn, okay. But with Kuniev, I'm thinking, if he can really get to that wall walk, get back up. The thing that really got exposed in Almeida's game last fight, like when you can control a man for 13 or 15 minutes and still lose the fight, that's a big problem. And he doesn't do enough damage, as you can see. If he can't submit you, there's literally 0 ground and pound. And it's hard for me to imagine, a Russian with a low center of gravity, let alone the background he's got, getting controlled for extended periods of time. I get it. Almeida you can call him a prodigy on the mat. So Brett, talk to me here, man. You think that Kuniev is going to be able to stuff this, keep this on the feet, and then, do what he does?
Yeah, this is a challenging one because what I see on tape is that Almeida will have early success. I think that he'll be able to. He's a much more physical wrestler than Blades. I mean, just look at what happened when he fought Blades. Almeida should be able to get into clinch exchanges, wrestle, land, double legs, and Kuniev will give up his back. And so I think there's a pretty strong chance that Almeida gets his hooks in within the first minute or two of this fight. The problem is if he can't submit him, and this is what I didn't say on Twitter, if he can't submit him, there's no way for me to have confidence that he can continue to out-wrestle Kuniev for, rounds 2 and rounds 3. And if he's not submitting him early in round 1, I doubt he's submitting him at all. So I don't think picking either side is crazy here. I mean, even when Almeida has lost, it's not like he's gotten blown out of the water. He's landing 7-9 takedowns in his losses. He's probably going to have early success, and he's probably going to win round 1. But I really don't have faith. Like, it's not that I don't have faith. I can't say confidently that he's going to finish Kuniev, submit him with a rear naked choke. I think that's what's going to be available. And if not, you can make a very sufficient argument that Kuniev is just going to outbox him over the duration, especially in rounds 2 and rounds 3, and get his hand raised. So I'm very interested in this fight. I haven't bet on it. But yeah, that's the general dynamic that I see.
Kyle Marley, what do you think?
I like these highlights that you got going on during the show. I'm getting lost watching these highlights, but
yeah, shout out the GOAT Meticulous.
Yeah. I agree with Brett though. I do think that Almeida should have the early success with his wrestling. He's just a physical freak, and he's going to be too strong for pretty much everybody that he fights. But it's going to be a boring fight if he wins. He's going to get top control. He's going to hang out, not do a whole lot, grind out minutes. And if we're lucky, he'll get a submission ended early. But he doesn't want to strike with anybody. He's not going to want to strike with Kuniev. And if Kuniev wants to pull out some Dagestani wrestling, then I think Almeida would be in trouble off of his back. So it's really whoever can get the takedowns, but I see it being Almeida early. And then maybe Kuniev can take over late. I just don't know that it's going to be enough or if he can finish him late. So I'm going to pick Almeida to win 2 rounds or get the submission. But yeah, I don't feel good about it. I'm not trying to lay minus 150 on him. And I'd be fine with either side of this fight on DraftKings because it's going to be right in the middle. DFS that is. It's going to be right there in the mid-range, and I think either one of these guys could put up 100 points. So instead of betting the money line on either side, I'll just probably play a little bit of both sides on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think I got to go with the underdog here just because I'm struggling with this fight. There's so many different ways it could go down. And I do think that Kuniev is good enough to where, even if he gets taken down early, get your back to that cage, wall walk, get back up, and then start to make Jailton start to shoot from a mile out, start to fatigue. And I just think that body type of Kuniev is kind of hard to control, man. That little refrigerator, stocky body type, lower center of gravity type guy. I say that about like a 6'4" man, but the way he's built, he looks like he's like a 5'10" heavyweight, you know, and but one with wrestling. I'm not talking about no Mark Hunt or something like that. But that being said, when Almeida, or if Almeida is able to get this to the ground, I would like to see a little bit more urgency, a little bit more aggression, some ground and pound, because like some of these guys, like Kuniev doesn't have a neck, so it's going to be kind of hard to choke him. And then like, are we talking arm bars now? Have we seen Almeida do stuff like that? Almeida's more of like a take your back and choke you out kind of guy. Tough first round, and I think Kuniev picks him apart rounds 2 and 3 and possibly gets a finish. So give me the underdog to come out here and surprise a lot of people in Vegas this weekend. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Michal Oleksiejczuk. He's 21-9, taking on Marc-Andre Barriault, who's 17-10. Currently, they got it Michal minus 500. The comeback on Marc-Andre's plus 385. So Marc-Andre, 5 years older at 35, an inch taller at 6'1". Both men have a 74-inch reach in this fight. So why is Michal minus 500? I'll tell you why. Because what you got here is you got 2 bangers, one banger only 30 years old, 135, kind of been getting slept a lot his last few fights. But the whole thing about it is, are we talking prospect versus vet? No, we're not. We're talking 2 vets. Just one's a much younger vet, and the much younger vet has just as much, if not more, UFC experience and MMA experience than the older fading vet. So to me, I think Oleksiejczuk's coming into his prime right now. And this is a guy that's always had potential. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Michal Oleksiejczuk that made his UFC debut against Khalil Roundtree and beat his ass. You know, this guy was out here knocking out 205ers when this guy should probably be fighting at 170 pounds, you know? And when you talk about Lord Michal, you're talking about a guy who get right into your face, whether he's mixing it upstairs to the body. He doesn't discriminate. Uppercuts, hooks, overhands, the whole arsenal from as far as a hands point of view. He doesn't really throw too many kicks or knees, but yeah. And I like the fact that, you know, a couple of years ago, people were criticizing Michal about how, you know, he's training in his garage in Poland. He left his coaches, you know, he's just coming in for a paycheck. And ever since he moved to the Fighting Nerds, now he's got a nice little win streak behind him. He's got the momentum, the confidence, and seems like his physique is tightening up a little bit. He's taking things a lot more seriously. He's getting good looks in the gym. And I just think he's simply catching Barriault at an incredible time. I mean, Barriault has a reputation for being ultra durable. You know, he's one of these hockey enforcers, gets you in the clinch with those nasty uppercuts, does his thing. But he used to be the guy that you hit him in the face with a baseball bat and he'll smile at you, keep walking forward. Now, checks notes, Dustin Stoltzfus laid him out cold. And I'm just saying, if Dustin Stoltzfus can knock you out, again, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, you know? But I think that Michal Oleksiejczuk is going to come out here and not just win this fight, gentlemen, but I think he's going to knock out the very tough Canadian banger, Marc-Andre Barriault, and he's going to make the kind of statement where people are like, okay, now I want to see Michal Oleksiejczuk in a top 15 showdown, in a top 10 showdown, and see what he can really do in this emerging middleweight division. So Kyle Marley, yeah, I know it's minus 500. I'm not breaking any ground here. Hey, I already picked 2 underdogs, but this is one of the favorites I like.
This is the one I was talking about. When I did this fight on Sunday, Oleksiejczuk was minus 305. Now he's minus 500. So, yeah, I do think he is the correct side. He wins this fight more often. He probably knocks him out in the first round, but, man, minus 500, he's going to win this fight over 80% of the time. I'd not feel good about that at all if it gets past the first round, because I think Barriault can hang with them strike for strike if it goes the distance. I think Barriault could also land a takedown or 2, control some time in this fight, and just make it interesting. So at this point, if I was to bet a side in this one, I would rather have the underdog, actually. So pick would be Oleksiejczuk. He probably gets a knockout. But if we're talking money line, man, I think Marc-Andre Barriault's just a little bit more alive than Vegas does at this point. So screw it. Give me the underdog in this one. Give me a close split decision type of fight.
Wow. Kyle Marley getting bold on Wednesday night on Half the Battle. Brett Apley, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Kyle, but more what I will say is that I think people have a little bit too much faith in Oleksiejczuk winning by first round knockout. Like Barriault is just won 3 rounds with Magomedov, and I, I I think I'll pick Oleksiejczuk to win by early knockout, but he's won 9 times in the UFC. 8 of them have been first round knockouts, and you might say, oh well, therefore he's going to win by first round knockout. But the bigger question is, what happens if he doesn't? Like, what happens if he doesn't win by first round knockout? Because Barriault throws enough volume to compete with him per round. Barriault can wrestle. I still like. I kind of like
Barriault can wrestle
a little bit. I mean, he can land a takedown, so he has a way to mix it up. Not that I think wrestling is going to be a way for him to dominate the matchup, but mostly I kind of think the overs are mispriced here. Like over 1.5 is like plus 150 on some books, and you get like Oleksiejczuk by decision plus 500, go the distance plus 300. That's kind of what I'd be looking at here. Or you can pair that with Oleksiejczuk round 1 knockout at plus money too. Definitely durability questions for Barriault. I definitely like the speed and the boxing of Oleksiejczuk, but he largely has just proven to be a fighter who has success via early damage, and Barriault is someone who can go toe-to-toe with you for 3 rounds. So yeah, I'm going to pick Oleksiejczuk. I'm going to pick him probably to win by early knockout, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Barriault survived a few exchanges and this went into round 2, and by that point, there's a good chance that we could just see this be a semi-competitive decision. So I think the line's getting a little bit out of hand here, even though I like Oleksiejczuk, but the overs feel a bit mispriced to me.
Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Jean Matsumoto, he's 17-1, taking on Farid Basharat, who's 14-0. Currently, they got it Farid minus 275. The comeback on Jean Matsumoto is plus 235. Farid, 2 years older at 28, 2 inches taller at 5'8", and is going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage at 71 inches of reach. Brett, I need you to go first on this one, because if I know Brett Apley, I know Brett Apley's high on Farid Basharat. I know that Brett Apley likes the kind of style that Farid Basharat brings to the table. But what's interesting about this fight is A, the price, B, the fact that they're treating it as though Matsumoto beat that Rob Font fight. They're looking at this as 2 undefeated prospects. Who's going to take that next big climb? And I'm very intrigued by it, because Matsumoto kind of reminds me do you guys remember a guy named Tomas Almeida from back in the day? He reminds me of that, with that marauding style. Only difference being is that I think he's a lot more durable than Tomas Almeida was. Tomas was super chinny, but he's got that style, whereas Farid is just a super cerebral, smart fighter. He can put up the strike numbers we like and the takedown numbers we like, just doesn't have it, much power to go along with it, but that's okay. He's got a lot of other things. That weaponized cardio, that'll make up for knockout power. Let me tell you that. So, Brett, I need your opinion on the matchup, and I need your opinion on the price. And am I correct in assuming that Farid is one of these prospects that Mr. Apley likes?
Yeah, you're mostly correct. I mean, I don't think he's a world beater, but he rates out as a pretty strong minute winner and round winner, and he can, strike in volume, and he defends strikes well. 2.47 absorbed, 60% striking defense, 3.6 takedowns landed per 15, 72% takedown defense. All those things are really strong, and he's definitely going to be the pick here. I like Matsumoto too. I'm not as high on him, obviously, but he can throw in volume. He's actually landing and absorbing the exact same number of strikes, 5.43 per minute. He's not blowing opponents out of the water. He's in competitive decisions, but he's producing enough offense to have success. What I think is really interesting is that in all of his wins, he's been taken down a bunch, 5, 3, 9, 2, and he's winning those fights. The one time he dominated the wrestling exchanges against Font 7-0, he lost. And I think clearly the biggest advantage Basharat has here is his wrestling. He, again, averages more than 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Matsumoto gets taken down in nearly every fight. So you got to project Basharat for 3 to 5 takedowns, I think, over 15 minutes. And with the top control that he'll earn, he could throw ground and pound that, plus what he can do on the feet, at least stay competitive, box Matsumoto up a little bit, not get brutally knocked out. He'll eat some leg kicks probably, but the combination of Basharat's skill, I think, gives him an advantage per round. So he's a fairly easy pick to win, although I definitely think it could be competitive because if the fight plays out on the feet, again, Matsumoto throws enough volume and he throws hard and he throws leg kicks that rounds will probably be competitive. So I think where Basharat really separates here is on the ground. I got him by decision at plus money, which I think has moved a little bit since earlier in the week. But I think this fight will extend. I think it'll probably go the distance. And I think Basharat, although it'll be a good competitive fight, I think Basharat will probably pull away with some additional top time.
I mean, Kyle, I'm also picking Farid. It's just that of all the matchups he's had, this is one that I'm least confident on simply being because the odds, number one, and the respect I hold Matsumoto. And Matsumoto is one of these guys. Doesn't matter if his face is, a bloody mess. Doesn't matter if he got rocked. If none of that matters. This guy's going to be trying to take you out from the moment the bell rings to the moment that the fight's over. So I think this is Farid Basharat's toughest fight inside the octagon. And the price is kind of giving me pause. Who do I think is the better prospect long-term? Farid. But Matsumoto's not a joke, Kyle Marley.
Yeah, I like both of these guys, but I'm real high on Farid. I just think he's got the full package. Matsumoto is dangerous with the submissions, but he is probably going to want to keep this in boxing range and try and win with his hands or get a submission, I guess, if he can, like grab a neck on one of Basharat's takedowns. But I think Basharat's going to be the one dictating where this fight takes place. I think he's the better wrestler. He's the trickier striker. I mean, he'll throw a lot more leg kicks, a lot more awkward strikes in general, but he's good at keeping range. So if he can stay on the outside, I think he wins the striking. Either stay all the way out or all the way in and get the takedowns. And if he can get takedowns, that's where I really see him winning the minutes in this one. So I like Basharat pretty much every fight that he fights. I mean, looking back, I think that Clayton Rodriguez fight is one of those fixed fights. That's when one of those fights where the line is only going one way and then it's a first round submission. So I'm calling that one of those old 2023 fixed fights, but I think it's going to be another decision for the Basharat.
I don't know. I think Farid would run through Clayton Rodriguez, whether it's in the octagon in my backyard at a 7-Eleven.
Right, but he's not much of a finisher, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, he's in there with a flyweight, but we can talk about that another time. I'm also going Farid, but I want to say one more thing that I like about Farid. We talk about the volume. We talk about the wrestling, mixing in all levels. You know what else I like about Farid? I like his toughness. In that fight he had against Damon Blackshear, towards the end of that fight, he got caught in a deep-ass triangle. And if he would have tapped, you remember when Mr. Ankle Live tapped with 1 second left against Paul Craig on a triangle? Like, if he would have tapped there, I wouldn't have held it against him because, A, Blackshear is a hell of a grappler, and B, that triangle is fucking serious. The fact that he did not tap to that tells me a lot about the guy's heart, the guy's mind, the guy's will to win, his determination. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because, we talk about Matsumoto's brawling style, his leg kicks, but you know what else he loves? He loves a guillotine. And if Basharat's out here shooting takedowns, one of these guillotines might be kind of tight. And I'll tell you this, Farid will let himself go to sleep before he taps out. That's the kind of guy we're dealing with. So I think we all got Farid here. And I'm guessing none of y'all, despite the price, are going to take the shot on the underdog or maybe in DraftKings. Like, what are y'all thinking? No?
No.
I think he's live, but yeah, I'm really not trying to bet this fight at all. I don't think. Maybe they over.
Yeah, I was on Farid by decision. I just think that's the most likely play, and you could you throw the over 2.5 or go the distance in parlays. The fight could be competitive. There's just no reason for me to bet against Basharat at this point.
Exactly. No, I feel you on that 100%. That's very well said. All right, before we move on to the next fight, I just got to give a quick shout out to Home of Fight. All right, real quick shout out. If you're not in the Home of Fight Picks Discord yet, you're leaving money on the table. They put in hundreds of hours of research on every single fight card, and in 2025, they finished up over 130 units. And they're doing something crazy for the fans of Half the Battle. Home of Fight Picks is giving away this weekend's plays for free. Just click the link in the description and join the Discord with over 6,000 members. And let's cash these parlays together this weekend. Next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Dustin Jacoby. He's 21-9-1, taking on Julius Walker, who's 7-1 currently. They got it. Jacoby -180. The comeback on Walker is +155. Now, here's where things get interesting. Jacoby, 11 years older at 37, an inch shorter at 6'3", and a 2-inch reach disadvantage at 76 inches of reach. I need you guys to talk to me about this because on one hand, I think that Julius Walker has never seen anything remotely close to Dustin Jacoby ever. And on the other hand, we're not dealing with a anywhere near his prime Dustin Jacoby. We're dealing with a guy who's about to be 38. You know, he's had a long kickboxing career. I mean, he fought fucking Alex Pereira in kickboxing, you understand, and got knocked out. And he's had a long UFC career. By the way, this is his second UFC stint. I don't know if some of y'all know that, but that's the truth. I was at UFC 137 the night that BJ Penn fought Nick Diaz, and Jacoby was on the prelims against, like, I don't know, was it Chris Camozzi or one of these guys, right? And like he goes 0-2 in his first stint, gets cut, goes to Glory, gets a couple MMA fights under his belt. All of a sudden, he goes on a nice little run in the UFC. So it's great to see. He's knocked out some household names. I think that if there's nothing wrong with Jacoby, I don't just think he's going to beat Julius Walker. I think he's going to knock his head into the third row. It's just about, I need y'all to talk to me about, is Walker truly catching him at a great time? Walker's had less than 10 pro fights. He's going to be making big leaps every single time he fights. Plus, he's a super athletic guy, much larger man here, and possibly has an advantage on the mat. But that being said, is he even ready for this opportunity? So normally I know who I want to talk first, but let me ask y'all something. Do one of y'all have a confident opinion on this fight? Because I'd like that person to go first.
There you go.
Okay, please.
I definitely think Jacoby's the side. I think it's fair to have a healthy amount of skepticism with Jacoby at his age and general variance in this division. And Jacoby, you know, he's not going to go out there and wrestle. He's going to go out there and strike. There's variance in striking exchanges. He's been knocked out before, so you can only cap him so high. But I think he's like clearly the better fighter here, clearly the better striker. And Julius Walker's still in the developmental part of his career. I mean, he's like a basketball player, you know, and he's a good athlete, but he hasn't had a lot of distance success from what I've seen. And even in his last fight against Serkiera, when the fight was on the feet, he was kind of getting tagged. Like, yes, he can win by knockout here, but there's no reason for me to be confident in that outcome or think that's a high percentage outcome. I think Jacoby's a pretty large favorite on the feet. And so the question to me is, can Walker mix it up and take this fight to the ground? And while he might be able to, I assume he'll try. I've always really liked Jacoby's get-up game. He's been taken down many times and he's learned how to scramble back to his feet. I don't see the skill set from Walker to be able to capitalize on mistakes that Jacoby might make. So there's general variance in this division. Sure, he could win by knockout. Sure, he could land a couple takedowns. But from my eye, I think Jacoby's just far more experienced, far more skillful on the feet, and I bet him already. So I like Jacoby this week.
Wow. If my boy aptly got involved from a betting perspective, say less, because you know, I do 2 podcasts a week now, one solo and then one live with guests. And on my solo one, I was like, you know, if the age wasn't where it was at and, you know, him kind of being towards the end of his career, normal terms, this would be like a max bet for me. I just don't want to be arrogant and, you know, kind of count out Walker. But like, then I was saying stuff like, but does Walker even know how to like throw a combination? Like, does he even understand his range and his distance? Like, he's like 6'5" to 6'7", and I feel like he jams himself when he's punching. And then you talk about his ground game. Let's pull up these highlights. You're gonna see stuff like a forearm choke a couple fights ago in his regional scene. Guys, this kind of stuff does not happen at the UFC level, especially when you're talking about Jacoby, who's like a perennial top 15 guy. So, you know, and then there's one more narrative, speculative thing that Jacoby was just in Australia cornering his teammate Brundage. So maybe the flight can mess with him. But even all that, man, there's levels to this shit. And the amount of dues that Jacoby's paid compared to this kid, I mean, yeah. So I'm going Jacoby as well. I'm glad Brett Apley feels the same way. Now the question is, Kyle Marley, like, do you see some kind of potential in Walker where he can level up quick for this opportunity? Because originally he was supposed to fight that Salty Baldiev guy, which to me, that's a good matchup. Two kind of guys that are just getting their feet wet and not too many people know about them. They both have 2 UFC fights under their belts. That's the kind of right matchup. But now you're fighting like a perennial top 15 guy, and I'm just not convinced, Kyle Marley, that he's ready for this. So talk to me.
No, I agree with both of you guys. I have definitely not seen it from Walker, but 37 years old from Jacoby, definitely don't love that. He could wrestle his way to 2 rounds, or he could knock out Jacoby, but those are his only paths to victory. He's not going to outstrike Jacoby. Jacoby should pick him apart. While this fight is on the feet, I do think it plays out on the feet for the most part, and I am picking Jacoby. I wasn't going to bet it at minus 200, but if you guys think that there's value, I'm not sold that there isn't. So I'm fine either way. In my head, I could see Walker taking 2 rounds on this one. I'm definitely not betting him either, though. So I think what you guys talked to me is I'm going to completely fade this fight on DraftKings because I would have had a little bit of interest in a knockout or wrestling there. But if you guys think that's not going to happen, I just don't really have any interest. I think Jacoby cruises to a striking decision.
Oh, you don't think Jacoby's going to maybe put him down?
He could definitely knock out Walker too. But if takedowns are in the mix, I would say that it'll be a decision.
Interesting. And I'll tell you this, if Jacoby wins a decision here, that might be another sign of him kind of, being on his way out, because I feel like Jacoby's prime, he's not just winning this fight, he's starching this guy in the first round. So I'm very curious. Okay, so let's talk from this perspective.
I would need some Jacoby DraftKings lineups if that's the case.
A diminished Jacoby. How does a diminished Jacoby handle this? Because, for example, a couple weeks ago, a diminished Krylov that was a diminished Krylov. You watch that performance? That did not look like prime Krylov. Still good enough to beat a guy nowhere near his level in Modestas Bukauskas. So, yeah, again, Jacoby clearly diminished, just like Krylov was. But Walker ain't nowhere near this level. Again, they're big boys. Anything can happen. Hopefully y'all don't get a clip of me disrespecting Walker and post it on Twitter. But at the end of the day, I speak my heart. I speak my truth. And I think Dustin Jacoby is going to come out here and knock this kid out. Now, before we talk about the next fight, I need y'all to do me a huge favor. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Once we hit 15K subscribers on Half the Battle, good friend of the show, Malcolm Wellmaker, is going to donate a UFC 322 poster that's signed by the entire card, meaning Islam Makhachev signed it, JDM signed it, Michael Morales, Carlos Prates. If someone, Valentina Shevchenko, Wiley Zhang, if someone was on the 322 card, they signed this poster, and one of y'all is going to get it. So all you got to do is get me to 15K subscribers. One of y'all is walking home with that free. Then once we hit 25K subscribers, I'm going to give out one of my personal pieces from my memorabilia collection, which is a signed UFC glove by UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping. So y'all hook me up, and I'm going to hook y'all up. And that's a bet. That's a air handshake. I'm a man of my word. My contest winners always get their prizes. No lock of the night bullshit over here. And let's move on to the next fight, because next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Alex Morono, he's 24-12, taking on Danil Donchenko, who's 12-2. Gentlemen, currently they got it. Mr. Donchenko, minus 800. The comeback on Alex Morono's plus 575. Morono, 11 years older at 35. Both men 5'11". Morono, 1 inch reach advantage at 72 inches of reach. So it's interesting. I've been joking around a lot how, every season of The Ultimate Fighter, there's a poor man's Jiri. And this time, one season it was Robert Valentine. Now it's this Donchenko guy. But look, in all seriousness, I'm a big fan of Alex Morono, man. Not the most athletic guy. And, to work with what he's got and to make it to where he's gotten to, dude, respect. Respect. He's a 20-fight UFC vet. And he's been in there with some of the best, with legends, beat legends, lost to legends. I love this guy. But what this fight reminds me of, gentlemen, in one sense, is back in the day, Alex Morono fought a guy named Josh Berkman. And Josh Berkman was clearly on his way out, was on like a 7 or 8 fight skid. And like, it was like, yeah, it's a formality here. But what was the difference between that and this? The difference was Morono was only like minus 200 to minus 250. So, we could just go out there and play him straight. Now the market's caught up and it's so sharp where this is that exact scenario where the roles are reversed. Now Morono is where Berkman was at, and Donchenko is where Morono was at when he was coming up. But it's minus 800. The market's caught up. It's sharp. So how do you feel about this? Do any of y'all think, Morono's live, or do you just kind of view him at that point where, hey, you had a great run. You maximized all your potential. Like, dude, the fact that he made it to this point and still in the UFC, respect. But I guess the big questions are, where do y'all rank Donchenko in terms of just being a prospect? And how would you approach this with an unplayable line on the favorite, Kyle Marley?
Yeah, I don't know how I rank him, but I think this is a great matchup for him. I think he's fun. He's going to be fun to watch. He's going to march forward, and he's going to try and hurt Morono, and I think he'll do just that. The way to play him would be to take him by knockout at whatever it is, minus 275. But Morono, I think Morono in general is an overachiever. He's never been talented. Yes. He doesn't hit super hard. He's not a wrestler, but he's got submissions in his game, and he can point fight and win some decisions. But he's definitely looking washed. And if the power's not there, I think Donchenko is just going to march forward and let him punch him just to give another 2 or 3 harder ones himself. I think he knocks him out in the first round. We've definitely seen the best from Morono, but I think this one's going to be bad.
Brett Hapley, what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of annoying that the UFC makes these fights because it's just so obvious what result they want. I'll give Morono a little bit of credit. Like he hasn't been knocked down even in his last 6 fights, so I don't know that we can say like, oh, he's just he's going to get killed with one shot. And in fact, Carlos Lee outlanded 79 significant strikes in 4 minutes in his last fight, and so it's like it's a different category to me than like, oh, he has durability issues, oh, he's washed. Like, you try eating 79 significant strikes in 4 minutes, and the rest, at most fighters, the ref's going to, step in between you two. He still didn't even get knocked down. And that plus the fact that, to me, I'm relatively high on Donchenko. I was big on him in his UFC debut. Donchenko rates out as a kill or be killed type, where I think he's going to get knocked out at some point. He forgoes his defense a little bit in favor of aggression and output, which is fine. I think he's going to be a really fun fighter. He's going to win a lot of fights, but I think he'll also get knocked out in losses. So the combination of those two things, like, this probably just be a brawl. And if you get punched in the face, you can get hurt, So I'm not counting Morono out, but I definitely, just like everyone else, think the most likely outcome is that he won't be able to take the big power that Donchenko brings, and Donchenko will move forward immediately, throw bombs, and probably score an early knockout here.
Yeah, I'm with y'all. Listen, respect to Morono. Like I said, he maximized his potential, and in his prime, man, the guy'd be swinging big bombs, had an opportunistic guillotine. I'm a fan, but Donchenko, obviously I got to take a wait and see approach about, where I rank him as a prospect. But as far as this matchup's concerned, I think he's going to come out here Saturday night and also knock out Alex Morono. So, yeah, consensus pick, but, minus 800 doesn't take a genius. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Nikolay Veretennikov. He's 13-7, taking on Niko Price, who's 16-9. Currently, they got Nikolay Veretennikov minus 225. The comeback on Niko Price is plus 190. Both men 36. Veretennikov an inch taller at 6'1", but Price has a 2-inch reach advantage at 76 inches of reach. So, Kyle Marley, there's only one thing I got to ask you. Nikolay Veretennikov minus 250 in this economy?
No chance. I didn't even know about this fight. They must not have had a line on Sunday because I didn't research it. So I've been looking at this for the past 5 or 10 minutes thinking, why the heck did they even put this fight together? And who do they want to win? They got to be one of these guys just to be hitting the road. So you're getting your walking papers if you lose this fight. But minus 250 for this guy? No chance. I don't know what he's good at. I think that's just a line that says Niko Price is washed, and I'm willing to bet anybody against him. I'm not going to do that. I think Niko Price is live in this fight. He is getting old, but he's the same age as this guy, and I think he's going to be the higher volume striker, the more likely wrestler. So I think this line is off. Just looking at it in the last couple minutes, Niko Price is my preferred play.
Brett Apley, let me repeat myself. Nikolay Veretennikov minus 250 in this economy?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Veretennikov. I mean, partially this price is because Niko Price is taking this fight on just a few days' notice, and Veretennikov was in a camp, so that the short notice aspect definitely favors him. And Niko Price hasn't won very often over the last 5+ years, so I get it. I'm picking Veretennikov, but I have issues with Veretennikov. I mean, obviously he's not a strong defensive wrestler. He's kind of been pounded on in recent fights by opponents who are better than Price is on the mat and from top position. But I don't love his defensive wrestling and grappling. And I also don't love his output. You know, he's gone to decision 4 times in the UFC affiliated fights, and he's landed 52, 50, 56. We won't count the 9 significant strike performance against Punahele, but he's more damage based. So is he going to knock Price out? Maybe. Can he take Price down? Maybe. He's just not a very active wrestler. I think it's fair to favor Veretennikov here, just because he's more damaging and the short notice aspect. But if there's one thing Price does, it's be active. You know, he throws a lot of strikes. He can knock you out from his pack. He's a dangerous submission grappler. So I'm definitely not overly confident in Veretennikov here. And if the fight extends, Price is going to throw enough to probably make this competitive. I do still lean toward Veretennikov to get his hand raised. Yeah.
I'm not even convinced Veretennikov's won a single UFC fight. I mean, did y'all think he won that Prado fight? I mean, tell me if you did. I personally didn't.
It was close. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. What'd you say, brother?
I don't even remember it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think he won that fight. I don't think he's winning any UFC fight. Here he's got a chance because he's fighting the ghost of Niko Price. But you talk about Veretennikov being the more dangerous guy. Is that true? I mean, have you seen some of Niko Price's knockouts?
Yeah. I think he's a more damaging striker at this point. But yeah, like to your point, Francisco Prado had him mounted. So if you told me Niko Price is going to wrestle like he did against Alex Morono, you know, can he land 3+ takedowns? I'd really like Price. If it's just striking, Price still has an out via volume over an extended period, but singular strikes, I think Veretennikov's more effective.
Yeah, tough one because on one hand, the underdog is a washed-up fighter, and the favorite is a mid fighter who's the same age as the washed-up fighter and hasn't proven shit. Whereas Niko Price knocked out Randy Brown, knocked out Tim Means, knocked out Alan Juban, granted, long-ass time ago, knocked out Alex Morono. Like, he's been in there with real people, win, lose, or draw. Like, had 2 wars with Vicente Luque. Well, the second one was a war. The first one was a beatdown, but still, just saying, like, he's been through the rigors of war inside the UFC's octagon, for better or for worse, because he's obviously at the end of his career. Don't be surprised if you see 2 knee braces on my boy Niko Price this weekend. But I just can't with a guy like Veretennikov at a price like this. So for that reason, give me a Niko Price to come out here and get this upset, gentlemen.
Don't count out a man who has 9 kids to feed.
Right. And there could be more on the way. So yeah, exactly. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Bruna, Brazil. She's 11-5-1, taking out Ketlen Souza, who's 15-6. Currently, they got at Ketlen Souza minus 150. The comeback on Bruna, Brazil is plus 130. Brazil, 2 years older at 32, 3 inches taller at 5'6", and has a 2.5-inch reach advantage at 65.5 inches of reach. So I need you all to talk to me about this one too. I mean, like, what has Ketlen Souza proven exactly to be a favorite against anyone on the UFC roster? She had the one result as a massive underdog against Yasmin Urugui, but besides that, all her fights are like split decision city. And Bruna Brazil, you can make the argument, and she doesn't like getting hit and all these things, but like, yeah, but like, who does she not like getting hit against? It's usually not like midgets like this. No disrespect, but like maybe I'm way off about this. Maybe Souza comes out here and treats Brazil the way she treated Horiguchi, but to me that seemed like kind of a one-off anomaly because every other fight she's in is like she couldn't even finish Marnik Man, guys. Okay, like you understand what I'm saying? So with Bruna Brazil, keep it long, get the volume going, avoid the big shots, and this should be minus 110 a piece. So for that reason, give me Bruna Brazil for this upset, Kyle Marley.
Yeah, I like Brazil in this one as well. Souza needs to march forward and land the big shots, but Brazil needs to keep it at range. I mean, if someone's going to get a knockout here, it's Souza. Brazil's been knocked out before. Souza did just knock out Horiguchi, like you mentioned, but I just don't rely on knockouts with 115-pound women. So I think this one's going to go the distance. I think Brazil is our more likely wrestler in this fight, and I think she can grind out minutes if she does get some takedowns here. So I slightly favor Bruna Brazil here, so give me her to win a boring decision.
Okay. Brett Apley, where do you stand on this?
I think this is just a pretty clear battle of ranges. I mean, Brazil's not really good at all, but she's only good at kicking range. She wants to keep the fight at a long distance, and that's what's very obviously going to lead her to success in this matchup. Souza's going to have to try and get on the inside and box, and if she can sustain the pocket more often, she's obviously going to be the better boxer here. So whoever can control that range will win this fight, in my opinion. I originally liked Brazil pre-tape, and then I went back and looked at it, and I'm going to pick Souza to win just because I think she's a more effective boxer. Like even at kicking range, Brazil just doesn't do enough. She's landing 2.6 strikes per minute. She's going to decision every time, landing 40, 50, 28, 44, 31 strikes. So I just don't see that being enough. Like Ketlen Souza's been out there against really good competition, at least, and whether you think she's won or not. I mean, Angela Hill and forget her last opponent off the top of my head, but she's a more effective boxer. I think optics favor her. If she ultimately can't close the distance, she'll lose. But I think I lean very slightly towards Souza just because I think optics favor her a little bit. She'll land the more damaging strikes.
Yeah, interesting. All right. This next one, I'm super intrigued to hear y'all's takes on this because next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Saeed Nurmagomedov. He's 18-5, taking on Javid Basharat, who's 14-2. Currently, they got it Basharat minus 130. They come back on Saeed plus 110. Saeed 3 years older at 33, an inch shorter at 5'8", but has an inch reach advantage at 70 inches of reach. Brett Apley. This is one of the most Brett Apley fights ever. And I need your opinion first because it's like we know like how dangerous and dynamic and explosive Saeed is. This is a guy who's got a 5-minute gas tank. Like this is a guy that's going to fade late. This is a guy who I don't remember the Justin Scoggins fight. He won a decision in his debut. Controversial, by the way. But besides that, has this guy ever won a second or third round in a UFC fight ever? And I think he's actually ultra talented. If you see some of the techniques that Saeed does, it's almost like he's talented and explosive and fast twitch to a fault because it's like only science that he's going to slow down with how dynamic all of his moves are, whether it's, the spinning attacks or, those front chokes. Like the talent is there and then some, but like when you have a complete bum like Bryce Mitchell dead to rights and you can't go out there and finish the deal, and this has been an ongoing thing throughout your career, it's just, I feel like we know exactly who Saeed is. But with Javid, he's got a lot to prove. This is not Farid. This is Javid. And I still think Javid might be better than what he showed in the Victor Henry fight or the Ayman Zahabi fight or, even the Ricky Simone fight. But I think he's coming out here hungry. But the dynamic, what the dynamic is? This first round, Saeed is hell on wheels. So, Brett Apley, where does this fight stack in terms of the way you handicap fights? Because I feel before the fact, this is the most Brett Apley fight ever. So I need your take first, my friend. Yeah,
I'm not passionate about this one just because I think the dynamic is pretty obvious. I don't know. I certainly don't trust Saeed past the first round. I mean, how can you after his last 2 fights? He's, again, death gassing in round 2. Whether there's extenuating circumstances, I don't know. But the vast majority of his success has come early in fights, and he's effective early in fights, and I expect him to continue to be effective early in fights. Basharat's going to rate out as the better round winner here. He's, a better distance striker over the duration. He's more likely to earn top control, and I think he's decent, but he's coming off a knockout loss. And I also, like, when I watch his takedowns, he's gonna put himself in danger of the guillotine, I think. So I never go out there and pick a fighter to win by guillotine, almost never, and I'm not going to do it this time. But Saeed is threatening enough that, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he A, won the first round, B, locked up a guillotine, or C, hurt Basharat early. So I'm not extremely passionate about this one, but yeah, the dynamic is Saeed's likely to have early success, and he's likely to fade and fade hard. So my pick is probably going to be Basharat just by default, the better round winner here, the more consistent guy. Yeah, it's one I'll be interested to watch, though.
Kyle Marley?
Yeah, I'm going to be on Basharat. I like both Basharat brothers just in general. But Nurmagomedov is impressive when he's finishing guys. If he can get a knockout or grab a neck, then he could finish Basharat. But he's an underachiever. He's the opposite of Morono. He's got all the talent, but he just doesn't go for enough takedowns. He doesn't strike enough at a high enough rate anyways. And he never looks good in a decision here. I think Basharat has looked good in decisions. He's kind of got the full package too, where I think he can dictate where this fight is taking place. But in my opinion, he should keep this one on the feet. I think he's the better overall striker. I think he'll be landing more strikes over the course of 15 minutes. And just in general, I'm more impressed with him. Even though he's coming off the knockout loss, I think that we're getting a little bit of recency bias in this line because he has those 2 back-to-back losses. And what was it, a no contest or whatever it was against Henry? It's been a long time since we've seen this Basharat look good. So in my opinion, he should be a little bit more of a favorite. So this one for me is favorite or pass. Give me Basharat.
I mean, the guy was minus 800 against Ayman Zahabi, who's on the longest win streak in the division. Now he's only minus 130 to a guy with 1 round gas. Is that not what you call a market overcorrection, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Please, Brett, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, who are you confident that he wins round 1?
Who?
Basharat?
No.
And it's just so
I would say if it goes the decision and we see the scorecards, I'd feel pretty good that he wins the first round.
Yeah, if you told me it goes, I mean,
I feel pretty good.
Yeah, that's fair. If it goes to decision, I'd be fairly confident Basharat will get his hand raised. And he's my pick. And I wouldn't blame you for betting Basharat. I do respect the early effectiveness for Saeed, and yeah, I think he'll pose some problems.
Saeed is so talented, but it's like, at what point do you just accept that this is who this guy is? And in that Bryce Mitchell fight, when you have a guy dead to rights on multiple occasions, I feel like he blew it, dude. And this is not the first time I've seen that. Actually, the lock dog fight, I don't hold against him because the physicality difference there, you put lock dog in there with a former flyweight, okay, no big deal. But the Bryce Mitchell fight, I thought was embarrassing by Saeed, just in the sense that you saw that knee he dropped him with, you saw some of those front chokes he had him in, and there was a moment, I think, in that second round where it's like, hey, you're winning this round, just stay on top, you're about to bank 2 rounds, and he still found a way to fuck it up. Also, you look at the strike counts for them. Basharat's doubled up Saeed on multiple occasions, and I think Saturday night in Vegas he's going to do the same thing. So while you have to respect the dynamicism, the early finishing upside of Saeed, and just he's a super talented guy. If he can make some tweaks, I mean, shit, he's got that potential where he could be a future top 5 guy. He just doesn't put it together. He's 33 years old now. I think we're looking at a finished product, and I think Basharat has to be super hungry coming off those last 3 results, not 2 results, 3 results, because I feel like he was insanely arrogant in the Victor Henry fight, and then you saw what happened the next 2 fights. Hey, sometimes that's what fighters need. Get humbled a little bit. Go back to the drawing board. Take some time off. And the blueprint's been established on how to beat Said Nurmagomedov. You weather this first round storm, and you're going to win this fight. So for that reason, I'm going to take Javid to come out here and win. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Kong Wong. She's minus 350, taking on Eduardo Mora, who's plus 285. See, Wong 8-1, Mora 7-1. Kong 2 years older at 33, both women 5'6". Mora's got a half-inch reach advantage at 67 inches of reach. So, as always, we got to pay the Kong Wong tax. You know how it goes. But it's actually a lower price than it was in some of these other matchups. And I'm glad she got the big stunt out of the way. You know, she thought she was God's gift to fighting. She beat Valentina in pure kickboxing. Thought, I'm just going to run through these girls real quick to get to that Valentina rematch. It's like, hey, this is MMA. This is a completely different sport. And I think that was the best thing that ever happened to her. And as a result, now she's back in the win column. And I think as long as Mora can't do anything crazy on the mat, which I don't foresee happening, I think Kong Wong's going to come out here, cover this price tag, pick her apart, 30-27. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I'd agree. I just think it's different levels on the feet. I mean, minus 400, I don't know that I want to pay that, but I think there's a possibility she drops the first round with Mora wrestling, and then we can get a better price live. Maybe that's the way I'd rather go about it. But yeah, I think Kong wins at least 2 rounds, if not all 3. Pretty easy fight.
Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kong's definitely the pick. The only thing that gives me pause is like Eduardo Mora is a really talented grappler, and Kong hasn't really been tested defensively that much. I'm not going to hold her submission loss against her because she was rocked and whatever. But like, who am I looking at here that's really testing her wrestling? Is it Victoria Leonardo? Is it Bruna Brazil? Is it Ariane Lipski da Silva? Like, it ain't any of those girls. So to me, this is the best wrestler grappler she's fought, someone who can legitimately take girls down and beat them up. And maybe we'll find that Kong does have kind of a deficiency on the ground, at least compared to a fighter like Mora. So I'm really interested to see this fight. I think the obvious pick outright is Kong, especially given that Mora tends to slow down, and she has lost round 3 a bunch of times, and wouldn't be surprised if Kong kind of beat her up in the second half of the fight, maybe even finish the fight. But I'm really curious to see if Mora tries to wrestle early. I assume she will, and I think she could land a takedown. And interested in those early exchanges, but Kong is the pick.
Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Muin Gafarov. He's minus 145, taking on Jakub Wiklax, who's plus 125. Muin is 20-6. Jakub is 17-3-2. Both men 29. Jakub 2 inches taller on paper at 5'9", but I think Gafarov is more like 5'4", 5'5", not 5'7". And Jakub's got a 5-inch reach advantage at 73 inches of reach. So interesting fight because Muin Gafarov, technically speaking, I think he's pretty damn good everywhere. Like, I actually think, like, just skill for skill, I think he's very solid. Where he lacks is in the athleticism department, the fight IQ, the cardio, the chin, and the decision making. This is a guy that, unfortunately, finds ways to lose. Have y'all seen that Chad and Hellinger fight? Have y'all seen that John Castaneda fight? You know, both those fights were clearly and firmly in reach. And the way he blew those fights, and now I got to lay chalk on the guy. Now, again, Wilcox, kind of goofy. You know, we're not even really sure he won that fight against the fraud Patchy Mix. So, yeah, kind of tough. But Wilcox is the dog here. He's the longer, lankier guy. And Gafarov's lost the worst fighters in this. So, curious what y'all think. Kyle Marley, what you think?
Yeah, I was looking forward to hearing what you guys thought on this one because I really have no lean. I think that it's a close fight either way. On the feet, I just think Gafarov's the better overall striker. He's going to be the more powerful guy, but he is low volume. He doesn't strike nearly as much as you would like him to. And then I think Wiklax could push a pace on the feet where he's just landing more strikes overall. On the ground, give me Gafarov to be the better wrestler, but Wiklax to be the more dangerous submission artist. I just have no idea. I think it could go either way. Anytime that's the case, I always take the plus money side. So right now, I'm on Wiklax.
Brett Apley?
Yeah, I think it could go either way. I think I I view Gafarov as like the better round winner. Like he's much more likely to land takedowns and consolidate top position here. So it's pretty fair to favor him. But he just doesn't do much with his top control. And like he's been put in, I mean, he got submitted by Said Nurmagomedov with a guillotine in the first round. He was mounted as back taken by Kyung Ho Kong. And Wicklax, like when he gets taken down, he still threatens and he can reverse position and he will shoot the guillotine. So I think Gafarov winning by decision is a pretty fair pick, but he doesn't throw enough volume and he doesn't do enough with his top control for me to be confident in him at all. I think I'm going to slightly lean toward Wicklax, to be honest, just because even in grappling exchanges, yeah, he'll be on the bottom, but he'll pose some threat that gives him some finishing opportunity. And God forbid, if he reverses position, he could finish the fight. Even on the feet, he's going to be a little bit active. Round should still be competitive there. So it's a fight that makes sense to line closely. No super strong lean. But yeah, the grappling exchanges are what interest me the most here.
Wow. Do we have a consensus dog pick? Not that any of us are confident. It's just more so about, do you feel like any kind of security laying this kind of price on Gafarov when he can be dominating a fight and then find a way to lose against Chad and Helliger? He can be having incredible moments, find a way to lose against John Castaneda, get submitted early in fights. Like I think the skills are there for sure, but when you don't have the athleticism, you don't have the cardio, you don't have the fight IQ, you habitually find ways to lose. I just can't do minus 145. And Wicklax, I'm not saying he's any kind of stud prospect at all. I'm not even convinced he won his last fight, but he's the longer guy. He's the more athletic guy. He's got opportunistic submissions. He's got to be riding high on confidence and at least have the pressure of that UFC debut off his shoulders. Now you can just come out here and perform at the best of your abilities. Are the best of his abilities enough to beat Gafarov? I don't know. But if I'm going to bet one, I'm going to take the underdog in a spot like this. I just, the same way I'm not laying, big chalk on I'm not going to lay minus 250 on Nikolay Veretennikov in a UFC fight in 2025. I just can't on Gafarov. Look, if you got in on these early prices and you're passionate about this matchup, go for it. Like I said, none of us are confident about it, but that's why I'm picking the dog in this spot. So may the best man win. And last but not least, my friends, I know y'all are ready for this because in the bantamweight division, we got Priscilla Cachoeira. She's 13-7, taking on Claudia Segula, who's 7-2. Currently, they got at Claudia Segula minus 155. The comeback on Priscilla Cachoeira is plus 135. Priscilla, 10 years older at 37. Both women 5'7", but Claudia Segula's got a 4-inch reach advantage of 69 inches of reach. So talk to me, gentlemen. Should Claudia Segula, no disrespect, but should Claudia Segula be favored against anyone on the UFC roster? Has she shown you anything to make you think she beats anyone on the roster? I mean, when you're getting finished by Melissa Mullins, and also with Priscilla, big weakness on the mat. Does Claudia Segula know what a double leg is? So to me, when they're going to come out here and strike, yeah, Cachoeira's striking technique ain't the prettiest, but what's always been kind of like an X factor in women's MMA? Power. Definitely has some of that. I mean, you remember what she did the formerly known Queen of Violence, Lipsky? So I think this might be one where Miss Cachoeira actually comes out here as an underdog and beats an unproven and significantly less experienced opponent than her. Brett Hapley, what do you think?
Yeah, it's another one that's hard to be confident in. I definitely don't, I'm not high on Segula. I will say she landed 101 significant strikes in her last fight, so that's volume that I like to see. Obviously, she has a severe weakness on the ground. I don't really think Cachoeira is going to test her there. So,
real quick. Sorry. When you were on my show, when Glover Teixeira fought Yuri Prohaska, I forget exactly what I said, but I said something along the lines of like, but there's no way Yuri's going to submit him though, right? And Brett Hapley was like, you sure? You never know. So now you're saying, but Cachoeira is not going to expose that weakness on the mat of Segula. You sure? You sure, Brett Hapley?
I'm definitely not sure. No, I'm definitely not sure. It's just that she only lands 0.1 takedowns per 15. And so, yeah, she landed a takedown against Jiyeon Kim in 2022. Obviously, it would be smart for Cachoeira to go out here and wrestle. When I think of Cachoeira, the word smart isn't really in the cloud of words that I'd use to describe her. But powerful is, and I think I'll probably pick her to win because I think she's going to march forward and throw bombs and probably be the more effective striker of the two. It's just that, I'm not going out here and betting Cachoeira necessarily. She is terrible on the ground, and she could easily be outstruck at distance, and now she can be knocked out. So there's a lot of ways that this could play out, but I'd rather be on the dog here than I would be betting Segula at -155.
Yeah, but like even on the topic of her getting knocked out, like, do you know what Jocelyn Edwards would do to Segula?
Yeah, Edwards is legit.
Yeah, she's someone that's paid dues and really worked her way up. Kyle Marley, close it out for us.
Yeah, I really don't care one way or the other in this one. I think if I had to bet the fight, I'd be okay with just taking the +135 at this point and going with Cachoeira. I mean, if I saw these two girls squaring up at a bar, give me Cachoeira all day long. But in a MMA fight, she's got 5 UFC wins. 4 of those wins are by knockout. I'm just not banking on knockouts in women's MMA. I think Segula could win minutes on the feet. I think Segula could get takedowns and just win in top control, land a lot of strikes if she gets into top control. And she does have more ways to win. So I picked Segula when I did this on Sunday, but it was -120 to +100. If I was doing it right now and I saw that line, that might have swayed me to the Cachoeira side. So no pick in this one. I'm hoping it's a close fight where the winner could be either side.
Now, gentlemen, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. I'll go first so y'all can decide what y'all are picking here. And for me, my fight to watch is Matsumoto versus Basharat, man. I mean, you got 2, I'm going to say undefeated prospects. That's how the UFC is treating it. A lot of people don't think he truly lost to Rob Font. And the winner of this fight is going to be on that trajectory towards the top 10, towards truly making a statement. And the winner of this fight could get a big co-main event on a fight night, maybe even headline an Apex card. Like, that's where these guys are at. And a win here is going to be rocket ships to the top. So, and not to mention, it's going to be a fucking hell of a fight. So for that reason, Matsumoto versus Basharat is my fight to watch. Which one of y'all want to take this next?
Go ahead.
I'm going to take the easy way out and go with Bautista versus Oliveira. I can't wait for that fight. I think it's a perfect 5-round fight. It's really appointment TV. I think you have to watch this fight if you're an MMA fan. There's a handful of fights on this card I'd be okay missing. But even if I'm dead on DraftKings and I know there's no chance I can win, I'm not going to miss this fight. I can't wait for it. Easy pick for fight of the night. Fight of the night, I guess. Yeah.
Brett Apley?
I'll go with Kong versus Mora here in the flyweight division. It's 2 high-level fighters in their respective skills. I know, people might think Kong will run through her, and if she does, that'll be super enjoyable to watch. She's one of the best strikers in this division, clearly, and I'd be super happy to see that kind of performance. I respect the ground game of Mora, and I think she's a step up above a lot of the competition Kong has faced thus far. I'm really curious to see whether she tries to implement grappling exchanges, whether she can have success. It's that classic striker versus grappler dynamic, and that makes for a really interesting fight to me.
Well, if it turns out that there's some kind of weakness in Kong Wong's jiu-jitsu game, she's more than welcome to come take my jiu-jitsu fundamentals class Monday, Wednesday at Team Octopus, 5:30. So now, who is the fighter to watch? For me, my fighter to watch is Mr. Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. Kid, you crush the grapes. Will you drink the wine? Because Mario Bautista is no slouch at all, but Vinicius Oliveira brings a very unorthodox yet exciting style to the table. I've often compared him to an 135-pound Dricus Duplessis. That's what he reminds me of. Does everything wrong, but it's effective, therefore it's right. And not to mention, when you're knocking guys out with flying knees, breaking the high caliber opponents he is, now you get this opportunity against Mario Bautista, who's as respected as they get. Well, I say that, but I didn't forget how some of y'all acted in that after that Jose Aldo fight. Now y'all love Mario Bautista. I didn't forget how y'all acted. So Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira is my fighter to watch. Kyle Marley, who is yours?
Man, I got two. How about you? You go ahead, bro.
All right, I'm gonna go with Donchenko. Like, this guy is 100% aggression, 100% power, and he's willing to go for it. And that makes for a super intriguing type of prospect. And I don't think he's going to sit back and try and mess around here. I think he's going to try and kill Morono quickly. And I'm curious to see whether he can do it. I know we all think he can, but thinking he can and having him still go out there and put his hands on another man's chin is they're two totally different things. So I'm really looking forward to Donchenko's performances, and I think he's one of the best action fighters in the division right now.
Kyle Marley?
I'm going to go Horiguchi. He's lost one UFC fight in his career, and that was against Demetrius Johnson. Can't hold that against him. Now he's got a co-main event spot here. I think he could be wearing the belt in the next 2 years, in the next year. So give me Horiguchi. Glad to have him back in the UFC, and looking forward to that fight.
Well, my friends, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night. Before we get out of here, my incredible guest, my friends, Kyle Marley. They can follow you at Big Marley 3. And where can they get your content at?
Go to shipitnation.com. That's where I post all my DFS content. I'll do a show tomorrow. Every Thursday night, I do a show with my guy, Titletown. We break it down from a DFS angle, so it'll be free on YouTube. Just search Ship It Nation.
Brett Apley, it's always a pleasure. They can follow you on Twitter at Brett Apley TTP. And what else you got going on?
Yep, got our standard MMA premium content, breakdowns, projections, tons of DraftKings content if you're interested in that side of things. Got a lot of stuff cooking, so if you want to follow the Twitter account, stay tuned for some announcements. But if you're watching this show, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and comment what your fight of the night is going to be for this card. Appreciate everyone's support, and love doing shows with you guys, and hope to do one again soon.
Yes, these are my guys. Y'all know where to follow me. So do me a favor. Do what he said. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe. Once we hit 15K subscribers, one of y'all's getting that UFC 322 poster signed by the entire card. Once we hit 25K, someone's getting a signed UFC glove by UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping. So hook me up. I'll hook y'all up. And make sure you follow my incredible guests. Follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks, on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod, on TikTok at Half the Battle Podcast. Shout out to the GOAT Meticulous for the incredible highlight reels, graphics, thumbnails, friendship, these lights behind me, everything you do to the show. I mean, you're the fucking man. I love you. So thank you. And then the biggest shout out of all to the fans. I wouldn't be doing this 10 plus years if it wasn't for the fans. So thank you all so much. Hope you all love the fights this weekend. And until the next time. Oh, wait. I got to say one more thing before we get out of here. Hold on. Jimmy the Drunk donated $4.99 to the show. He said, is this an old school episode of Daily Fan MMA? Where's Sun Tzu? Hey, y'all want to take this one?
Yeah. Sun Tzu's around. He's still doing shows, but this definitely feels like, old school Daily Fan, old school Daily Fan radio. It's we've all been in this game a long, long time. So it's great to circle back and talk with friends.
Yeah. So really thank you for the donation and for, being with us this many years. Not Rex said something hilarious. He said, once we get to 50K subs, Dan will personally take one of you to the Brazilian steakhouse. Hey, let's do it. Let's do that. Hey, y'all got me to 50K. One of y'all's coming with me to one of my favorite Brazilian steakhouses here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to make that happen. And then one more thing.
So hopefully I'm the one.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you can, as long as you're subscribed, you're in the contest. So you never know. Guys, I don't pick the winners. I do it through like a Wheel of Fortune thing. It's completely random. I wish I could pick the winners, but I don't. Gotta keep it fair. And then one more thing. My boy Spotswood Music, my boy Ben Spotswood. So I don't know if a lot of y'all know this, but I actually play the drums. And my boy Spotswood is my lead singer and guitar player and songwriter. He's amazing. Go to Spotify or iTunes Music. Type in Ben Spotswood or just type in Speed Limit Blues. That's the song that we recently released. It's a badass Southern banger. Y'all will really like it. And we got a lot more in the works. So definitely check out my boy Spotswood Music. And thank you all so much for all your support. And until the next time, Let's cash these bets.